Welcome to the Biz and Tech Podcast. My name is Blake Dowling. I'm the CEO of Aegis BizTech. It's 2025 and cyber threats are rampant. Grubhub just had a data breach. If you use Grubhub, change your password. Consider using Uber Eats. Look at your alternatives. Make sure you have robust passwords. Make sure your data is backed up. And have redundancy at every level of your technology to protect your business from hackers. Because until there's a silver bullet for all hacking problems, the threat landscape remains ruthless. So talk to your IT professional, talk to me, talk to someone, and make sure you're protected. That's it for today's PSA. And welcome to the show, Hadi Boulos, President and CEO of the Boulos Corporation. Welcome, Hadi. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me, Blake. Good to see you as well.
Absolutely. Before we get started, why don't we just talk about what you do, how you got to where you are, and then we'll dive into some specific questions.
So I'm the president and CEO of Boulos Corporation. It is a company that's been around for decades. I was lucky to join the group in 2013, and I have been on the realm of the growth of the group, hopefully successfully for the last 10 years, being headquartered here in Tallahassee. It is something that I've somehow inherited from my father, who was also an architect developer. And as a young kid, I grew up on construction sites, and I've seen the world become a better place because of people like my father. So with that being said, I am very lucky to be where I am, and I wake up every morning looking forward to making a better day every day for people who are looking for homes.
Awesome. Well, your branding is first class and top notch. I don't think anyone who lives in North Florida has not seen one of your signs. So kudos to that, because it takes an art to get the brand out there successfully. So the American dream, I see on your website, I see that phrasing throughout your mission, if you will, from a corporate perspective. Tell us what the American dream means to you, and why have you used that phrasing so much in your business?
Building the American dream is a beautiful logo. It's a beautiful mission, call it. And the words are large, they're big, but within every word there's a content, right? Building the American dream, what does that content mean? It means, it's a sense of belonging. It means, owning a home. It means, safety, thriving neighborhoods. It means building equity. It means, family. Having a family that come around the dining table and enjoy each other every night. It's a mixed bag of many different attributes to a sense of belonging to this world. Really, is basically owning a home and having a roof over your head. So that really is what the American dream is basically owning a home and be able to afford it within a quality purpose.
Well, it's quite visionary to have that in a mission statement, if you will. So job well done on that front. If you could say or name one accomplishment that you would list as your proudest accomplishment, what would be at the top of that list?
I live every day, or I get up every morning and try to be a better person than I was the day before. So I thrive to be a better person every day. That is my accomplishment. I don't think that I can pinpoint at one, but my accomplishment is basically looking forward and learning every day something new.
Yeah, hear. I was sharing with our team this morning. They're like, "Why were you so stressed out yesterday?" I was like, "Well, I was giving a keynote talk." And like, "You give talks all the time." I was like, "Well, I don't give that kind of talk. I give cybersecurity talks, or I talk about this company. I don't talk about something for yesterday's purposes, which you got to hear a story about kindness. It's interesting, and the reason I did it was to challenge myself to get better at doing that kind of thing, and to constantly try to improve. So you started down this line of questioning, what is an average day in the life like for Hadi Boulos? Are you a 4 a.m.er, hitting the gym before work, going for a walk, yoga, meditation? What's it like?
It's a very disciplined approach to what I do on a daily basis. You know, being a real estate developer slash builder comes with very different silos, right? And it's just not one avenue or alley that you focus on. You can just go on the next, about your day. My business is divided within 5 different silos, and I have to focus on all 5 of them in the morning to try to see, how do I prioritize which one is, comes in first. And they sometimes all land at the same time. So it's really prioritizing and discipline your day to ensure that you make the best out of it. So, I come into the office, the first thing I do is, manage the risk side of the business. All right, what can go wrong, or what is, you can be as optimistic as possible in anything you do, but you also have to build up that optimism to make it real, right? And by doing so is really managing the risk side of the business and try to ensure that all the building blocks that you have ahead of you are well placed and well managed and well secure. So basically, it is a tough choice. It's a tough battle on a daily basis, but my day is, starts with managing risk.
Okay, good stuff. So let's talk about your background a little bit. High school, college, your formative years, childhood. Walk us through anything you want to share in those phases of life.
Well, it's been quite an experience, obviously, coming from a very small country that has, witnessed civil war and economic wars and, election wars. It is a very small country in the Middle East, Lebanon, obviously. I was born there, throughout the, I'm 50 today, obviously, but I was born in, and throughout my childhood, the Civil War in an unfortunate way made us leave the country on numerous occasions, and we would find shelters, whether it be in Egypt or in Greece or in Germany or in France, or the unfortunate circumstances made it fortunate for prosperity and trying to find a roof over your head, right? So that kind of created exposure that no other child would have been exposed to under normal circumstances. So that exposure enabled me to thrive in any place that I was basically exposed to. So, at the age of 14, my family decided to send me to the States, where I wanted to, my ultimate goal was to become an amazing tennis player. So they sent me to Florida, where it's a big tennis state,
right?
And that's where
you were an amazing tennis player.
I was at one point,
right?
And I really enjoyed it. That taught me a lot of discipline, a lot of focus, mental stability, and I came to Maclay, which was here in Tallahassee, Florida, and this is where I met you. And I think you're the first person I met when I walked in my first steps through the schools. It was a scary environment due to the fact that
one of the first.
Yes, correct.
Really?
Yourself and John Daly, I believe, who's the current mayor of Tallahassee. So it was a scary environment due to the fact that the first Gulf War had just erupted. And it was a sense of, is this really where I would want to be, where I'd like to be? And, it was a good experience. And I felt you guys made it home for me. And that's why I stayed. And that's why my parents, decided to plant roots in Tallahassee. And that is the reason where I am here today.
Well, thank you for sharing I didn't realize I was one of the first people you met. After my story yesterday that I shared, Dr. Spencer Stetzel was my first person that I met at Maclay. So hopefully I was remotely nice, as I had a big country accent back then, and my ripped jeans and high tops. I'm sure you thought I was quite the hooligan.
You're one of the cool and nicer guys that I've met at Maclay, and you still are. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you. And I'm glad our paths crossed then and now. So, off the cuff question: how many languages do you speak?
I spoke 5 languages fluently.
Because when you mentioned that list of countries, I'm like, I bet he
Yes.
speaks French. I bet do you speak Greek?
No, I don't speak Greek. I
Okay.
speak Arabic, which is my first language. Then second language is French. My third is English. Fourth is German, and I'm conversational in Spanish.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Excellent. Outstanding. So why Tallahassee? My one question out of that journey and that wonderful journey, not that it was perfect. Obviously, we all have our challenges in life. But why Tallahassee?
Well, when I first came to Florida, I was at Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, which is what is known today as the IMG school.
Oh, everybody knows
and,
that, of course.
It was a great experience there, and I was boarding. So my parents called me from Germany at the time, and they said, Hadi, if you want to stay in the U.S., and particularly in Florida, your uncle is a visiting professor at FSU. So you don't have to live with him, but at least, if you want to stay in the U.S., you can move to Tallahassee. And if you need a family member who, and for any reason, he is closer to you. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Tallahassee, joined Maclay, obviously, and it was, this is when my parents would come and visit me, and they saw the opportunity in Tallahassee, the sense of values, the family traits, the closeness of the people, and it's a place where they felt safe for me to be, and I totally agree with them.
Awesome. Are you a big reader?
I do read a lot of newspapers. Correct.
What are you reading currently?
Well, most of the newspapers that come along between the Financial Times, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, you've got to be
Journal
abreast.
Your go-to or
Yes,
other?
Correct.
Good stuff. How about a mentor? I know your father was hugely important to you, and I had the honor of meeting him and you one evening at Izzy's, if you recall, a couple of years ago. And I know you recently lost him, and my condolences. Was he your mentor, or would you say someone else was in your life?
My dad played a big role in my life. Initially, as a teenager, you're always, teenagers, you're at 13, 14, going on 30, right? So you feel that you're always you always butt heads with your parents. But, the older you get, the more you realize, that whatever they told you or whenever they were mentoring you, it always sticks, somewhere in the back of your head. And, the older you get, the more you realize that they were right all along. So, because the love that you get from both parents is unconditional. And that is the only unconditional love that you, as a person, will ever get from anyone, right?
Well said.
You get unconditional love and you give unconditional love to your children. But anything outside that realm is friendship, love that will come and go. But the love that you get from your parents is the only unconditional love. And I'm very blessed to have had parents like mine. They instilled a lot of values in me, sometimes to my detriment. But if I were to go back and relive my life, I wouldn't change anything. So I think I'm very thankful, and the last 10 years have been very blessed to have spent them with my father as well.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of when I was around 13 and I began to be a little rebellious. My father also had a warehouse that he owned, and one summer they had a account for antifreeze and for kitty litter. And he said, well, he didn't say why, like to counter your rebelliousness. He's like, well, I've decided you're going to work in the warehouse this summer. And I said, oh, no. Okay. And so from 7 to 6, I worked in the warehouse, and it was my job to clean up the pallets of kitty litter and antifreeze when the forklift drivers would rip the pallets. Mm-hmm. And it made this special kind of sludge that was almost impossible to clean. And into that summer, I would say my rebellion was minimalized. A hard, important lesson of to play ball and be appreciative of what you have. And I learned a lot that summer. So I'd love to ask this question. If you could time travel, where would you go? What period and what location?
I would time travel to sit with Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And to have a chat with him and to ask him if what I'm doing is right.
Wow. That's outstanding. And that's a first. 5 years of the show. That might be the best answer ever. What's the most significant event in your life? We've talked about a few. If you could pinpoint one, what would you say?
I've had the opportunity to live in many countries and experienced many ups and downs in my life. I've had the loss of my mother at a young age. I've experienced cancer with her. I've experienced Alzheimer, Parkinson's with my dad. Work. I went out there and was extremely successful at what I did, which, I was the youngest managing director at Citibank out of 100 from 300,000 employees. Tennis has brought me a lot of, focus, determination, and the one thing that it will always stick to me is my first interview at Merrill Lynch, mm-hmm. which was quite interesting, and I'll always remember that interview, and that is something that sticks to me. And I remember very well, I was looking for a job, right? So when I graduated from university, and you mentioned university, I went to work with for my father, who was a developer, and an architect, and quite a successful one. And I realized, I said, you know what, I didn't deserve it. I didn't win that place at my dad's office. Everybody would do whatever you tell them to do because you're the son of the owner.
Right.
And as a tennis professional, that was not my prize. I was given that. I was handed that job. So it wasn't wasn't gratifying for me. So I told my dad, I said, I'm going to find a job. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going back to the States. So I came back to Tallahassee, and I was looking for a job. And I remember I asked a person, or a friend of mine, I said, how long will it take to get a job? They said, between 6 and 8 months. I said, what? It'll take me between 8 months to find a job? They said, yes. So I want to emphasize on that story because it's quite important for everyone not to give up and to be motivated behind it. So there was a Morgan Stanley Dean Witter at the time here in Tallahassee, and mm-hmm. I went and interviewed with them, and they said, Hadi, you're a great person. We want you part of our team. You can study the Series 7, and we think you'll do well. And I went and I had another interview with Merrill Lynch at the time, and without going into names, the managing director at the time asked me, he said, so, I've heard your name come across my desk a few times, but let me tell you something, boy. You are not from here. Your name doesn't go here. You don't speak our language. Basically, you ain't gonna marry my daughter. Every 7 I hire, 1 make it through. I'm gonna hire you to watch you fail.
Well, that's an interesting story.
And so I looked back and I said, this is a little insane.
That is a little insane.
But I went home and I thought long and hard, and I called Morgan Stanley Dean Witter at the time, and I said, I'm going to decline your offer. And I called the guy at Merrill Lynch. I said, I'll be joining on Monday. And that was one of the biggest challenges that I've had, and I proved them wrong, and became to be quite a successful banker. And this is one of my proud moments.
Do you think that person was using some sort of bizarre, rude reverse psychology, or?
Before I left Tallahassee to go to New York, he wrote me a beautiful note on a book saying, you're one of the most impressive young men I have ever met. study this book, and success will be yours.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yes.
What was the book?
Investment Strategies.
Okay.
It is sitting in my office still.
I won't ask who it was. We'll let that stay private. So tell us about your developments. We mentioned your signage and your branding. For anyone out there looking for a house, which Florida is the go-to spot for so many looking to migrate here from other parts of the nation and the world. Tell us about your developments.
Well, my mission is to really build thriving neighborhoods. I want to ensure that, anybody can build a development, but if you don't have strict measures, strict HOA rules, covenants, and restrictions, anything new would look great today. But I want to ensure that my developments would, last 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years as if they were just built recently. So, I moved back to Tallahassee in 2013 to take over the company. But I, as an investor, have been investing in Tallahassee since 2002 in the multifamily space, which, income-producing assets such as, apartment complexes. And that's what I did with my father throughout my banking career. So as a successful banker, I was co-investing with my father here in Tallahassee. So when I moved to Tallahassee in 2013, I've realized that, the space or the focus that really Tallahassee is lacking is, housing. And today, most importantly, affordable housing, which we can touch on in a little bit later. But housing there was a scarcity of housing. The inventory was less than 1%. So I realized that I needed to divest out of the multifamily. That was an amazing experience, and go back into the what the family's always done, which develop neighborhoods and housing, whether it's affordable housing, mid-range housing, or high-end housing. So I have a mix of bags of various call it housing packages that is available for anyone who would like to move to Tallahassee, whether they're starter homes or high-end homes.
Yeah, there's some beautiful, beautiful models. Looks great. So what do you like to do when you're not working?
That is a big question.
Because you strike me, of course, as someone that there's a very thin line between personal and professional. When you love what you do, I certainly feel that way most days, because I love doing this show. I love writing columns, and most people call that work. I'm like, well, I love selling. I wouldn't really call that work, but it is. What about you?
When you're working and you love what you do, you don't feel like you're working. You feel like you're on holiday most of the time. So when I go away, I feel that I don't belong, because I belong where I belong at designing or looking at the next opportunity. At the end of the day, it's no longer part of, hey, you're a developer. It's no longer dollars and cents. It's actually how can you improve people's lives? How can you ensure that you're building a 1,600 square foot heat and cooled home that feels like a 2,500 square foot? What are the dead zones? And to be honest with you, I live in every home model that I build, and I move from one to another to live the experience that a buyer would live, right? I just don't build just and sell. I actually move in to each home or each model home for about a good 3 months.
That is awesome.
To have the feel and aspect of, okay, this is a dead zone, or we're missing something here, and that's what I do, and that brings me joy. Because
I did not know that.
if I want to build and I want to deliver a product that is sustainable, I've got to be able to deliver on my word and not just build and sell and look good on paper.
Outstanding. There was a TV show I used to watch, Arrested Development. Do you remember that, producer Josh?
Love that show.
Yes, the Bluth family. They lived in the model home briefly. Highly entertaining program, and that I said it already, but that's amazing. That is so cool. I mean, talk about belief in your product.
Yes.
I live in that. I don't just sell it. I live in it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I mean, I was even asked yesterday, said, there was a person who was going to visit me. She's like, you still live in that house or you have moved? I said, no, I'm still there because, the 3 months has not yet lapsed.
Very nice. All right, before we run out of time today, you were talking about affordable housing. Don't want to miss anything. What were you going to share there?
Well, affordable housing is a sore spot at the moment within the city of Tallahassee. And I feel that, there's a lot that can be done in that realm. And, working closely with the city partners, I think there could be an opportunity to bridge the gap and to be able to deliver a solution on that. I know that it is talked and discussed openly, but the solution has not been put in, together. So, I think if there's a will, there's a way, and I think that the city has to put their, pen on paper and deliver on that. And there's a lot to be done, and I'm more than happy to be able to support that initiative as well. There's a lot of red tape that goes on, and obviously cost and inflation it plays a big part. But also the city and the county needs to also address the red tape behind developments. They are increasing their asks as well. So when you increase an ask in developing a community, that increases cost. So you've got your raw material that is increasing with an inflation. You've got the land seller that has a price.
Right.
But then when you come and you deliver on the infrastructure, that infrastructure just keeps rising because of the high asks of the city and the county. So when you build a home, that by default is going to have a higher tag price because of the various asks that can be reduced without causing environmental harm. So the ask is becoming a little bit too much on the price tag of a home. So if the city and the county official work to reduce the ask, I think the price of the homes can go back down to being at least affordable in some way, shape, or form.
Good deal. Before we close today, looking back to Lebanon, culture there, the Paris of the Middle East is the way you described it a minute ago when we were off camera, I believe.
Correct.
What would be an ideal, perfect, 5-star dining experience? What would be served in that capacity?
Well, our cuisine is very much a vegetarian cuisine, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the icing on the cake would be the various meats that you order at the end, but we're very vegetarian focused, from the various salads to the pastes, and there's the hummus, the taboulis, the mutabals, all of those, are great ways of really enjoying a good meal in Lebanon.
Excellent. And you talked about university. Where did you study?
I went to Roger Williams University, which is up in Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm still very much in contact with the president and his circle up at the university. Actually, I'm invited to a gathering tomorrow evening in Palm Beach in honor of that university as well. So I'm very closely engaged with that university. I've been, very lucky and I've been supportive of that university as well.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for sharing your journey today, Hadi. It's been a pleasure to know you, to follow your career, to have been one of the first people to meet you at Maclay School back in 1990 versus 98. But all that said, before we close, anything you want to share, any announcements, any how to reach you, what you're up to, any causes you're passionate about? Don't want to miss anything today.
I'm very, we do a lot as a company. I think we are very much pro tree planting initiatives, and we commit every year to planting 4,000 trees, whether through the Arbor Day Foundation or whether giving out trees ourselves during the Parade of Homes. I think last year we gave away 2,000 trees, and we we planted 2,000 with the Arbor Day Foundation. So those are initiatives for the environment. As far as helping the needy, we really do it very quietly. We don't announce it because this is something that we do, internally, and we feel that helping needy individuals or organizations that whether it's via education or via a nonprofit, I think we focus on that. I think I'm very much involved in the Lawrence Kids Foundation as well for against sexually abused children. This is something that hits deep, and because kids are very vulnerable and they look up to adults for leadership, and sometimes it's the wrong adult. And with that being said, most of my neighborhoods have park. I build a park in most of my neighborhoods that gets away, then that kind of, you cannot have a sexual predator living near a park. So every one of my communities has a park, and that, veers away all the sexual predators from young kids and families.
That's an excellent
And that's something we also work on within our organization. I thrive to become a better person every day. I want to be a better person. I want to become a better person. And hopefully, I get to continue to learn until the last day on this earth and give back to my community, whether it is the Tallahassee, whether it's the state of Florida, or whether it's the country I live in. I want to thank this country and for having me and giving me all the opportunities and to make me who I am today.
Well, thank you for being a wonderful community citizen. Thank you for being a guest on the Biz and Tech podcast, and thanks for being a friend. I'm glad we reconnected last year, and cheers to a great episode. That's it for today's show on the Aegis Biz and Tech podcast. My name is Blake Dowling. We are signing off, and we'll see you in a month. But before we go, congratulations to our producer, Josh, his team, Chucha Barber, Gabby, for the success of Unfiltered, The Truth About Oysters, on PBS and featured all over the news, winning awards left and right, and most importantly, getting a large boost from Governor DeSantis in the state of Florida with approximately $30 million on the books to improve oyster beds in our state. That's great. Talk about a successful story from start to finish. Thanks, Josh. Thank you, Hadi. Everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye.